Hey guys, welcome again to the Maths Club. If you're just joining us, so welcome. So for some time, we'll be looking at number base, start with an introduction to number base and some basic operations in number base, right? The addition, subtraction, multiplication. I also did converting from one base to another. And right now, we're going to focus on division in different bases, right? So if you're just joining us, you might want to click on the pop-up that will appear at the top right to take you to the list of what we've been doing in number bases, right? The next video after this would actually be us solving all WAEC questions regarding number base from 2004 till 2023. So it's something you should look out for, right? So as always, whenever we start in a concept, we always start in base 10, right? So let's solve some questions to bring home what we are going to be discussing. This is 567 divided by 32, right? Let's see. Let's look at our long division method. So 567 divided by 32, right? 5 divided by 32 will give me 0 point something, so I don't need that. 56 divided by 32, right, will give me 1 point something because 32 can only go once in 56, right? So that will be 1. 1 times 32 is 32, right? Then I will subtract. Remember this, you subtract. 5 minus 3 is 2. 6 minus 2 is 4, right? If you remember this method very well, when you subtract, you now bring down the next value after the original value that you divided by, in this case, which is what? 7. You know, when we divided, we only touched 56, we didn't touch the 7. So you bring down this 7, right? You bring it down here, right? The division again goes on. 247 divided by 32, right? So you might use a calculator for this, which is fine. So 247 divided by 32, right? That will give you 7. So that means that if I divide this by this, I will have 7 whole number. I'm looking at the whole number part, 7, right? So same thing, so 7 times 32. So 7 times 32, this will give you 224. Right, you subtract again, right? When you subtract, 7 minus 4 is 3, 4 minus 2 is 2, right? Is there anything to bring down here? No, there's nothing to bring down here, right? Unlike this place where we brought down the 7, there's no other value to bring down, right? So if there's no other value to bring down, right, the answer you get here is a remainder. So therefore, 567 divided by 32 is equal to 17 remainder what? Remainder 23. So 17 remainder 23. So that is the answer here. 17 remainder 23. That means you did very, very well. If you are new to this method of division, don't worry. By the time you solve multiple questions, you see that there's nothing to it. Let's go to the next question. It says 5670 divided by 32. So let's see. 5670 divided by 32, right? So as the first time, 5 divided by 32 would give me 0 point something. I'm not interested in that. 56 divided by 32, that will give me 1, right? So 1 times 32 is 32, right? Here there will be a remainder of what? So this is 2, this is 4, right? Remember, like what we did in the previous time, we bring down the 7, the first one of them. So this will be 247, right? 247 divided by 32, from what we got it to be 7, right? And then 32 times 7, when we did this here, we got it to be what? 224. Right, so 224. You subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3. 4 minus 2 is 2. But remember, there is something, there's another value again. So this next value, I'll bring it down here, right? So that will be 0, right? Same thing again, I'll divide. 230 divided by 32. What would that give me? So 230 divided by 32. That will give me 7, right? So I'll put 7. So 230 divided by 32 is 7, right? So 7 times 32, we've done that before, and that gave us what? 224. So by the time I subtract this, 230 minus 224 is 6. Because there's nothing else to bring down, that means that the value has a remainder of what? Of 6. So therefore, 5670 divided by 32, right, is equal to what? 177 remainder 6. Right, let's see if our answer is correct. 177 remainder 6. So we did very well. Now let's see in other bases, right? Look at this example. This value is in base 2, right? So let's see. When you're working, I would advise that you put a bit of space above this thing so that if you are subtracting and you have to cancel, you can have enough space to be able to cancel. So divided by 101. Remember, we're working in base 2 and this in base 2. Great. Let's look at this. We have 101. So the first thing that should be able to undo this 101 should be 1000, really, because 100 divided by 101 will give me 0, right? So it should be 1000, right? Now, how many times 1000 go in 101 in base 2? How can I know that? Right? Remember, also, please take note of this thing. Remember, when we are dealing with, when we said before, we said if I'm dealing with base 2, right, the highest number in each of my this thing would be 1, right? 1 less than the base. So you can see the highest number, like the highest digits in this thing is 1. If you are dealing with base 10, right, you can see base 10, you can see the highest number will be 9. That's why when you say 973, you can see that each of these number, the highest number is what is less than 10, which is 9. So if you have 2, 3, 5, this goes, right? You can't have a base 2 number and you'll be having 2, 1, 0. This is not possible because the highest number in, or the highest digits in a base 2 number should be 1. Right? This is like a refresher course on what we've done before. So in a base 10 number, you cannot be saying A73. A73. This does not make sense because A is for numbers that are greater than 10, right? So in that light, if the highest number that you can have, right, the highest digit that you can have in base 2 is actually 1, right? That means that whatever value that we are having here, all this division, right, they must also be less than 2, right? So it might be a bit confusing. That is fine, right? So whatever I'm doing, I can only multiply by 0. So this 101, I can only multiply by 0, which will give me 0, or I can only multiply by 1, right, which will give me 1. Because if I multiply by 2 and I do this by this, if it should go, right, maybe if I multiply this by 2 and let's say I have like maybe let's say 100, right, let's say 100, right, in base 2, 100 in base 2, that means that, look at, we had 1000, right, or 1000, and I divided it by 101, so that means the answer will be 2. But that will be incorrect because in base 2 the highest number that you should have, right, should be 1. So that means that the highest multiple that we can do for any of all these things is actually 1, right? So let's continue. By the time we keep on solving, it will become clearer, right? So let me also clear this one. So I cannot go so out of, if I divide 1000 by 101, the highest I can actually get, right, the highest I can actually get is actually 101, which is what is multiplied by 1. So this will be 1 times 101, right, because I divided it by 1000. So is this 1000 parts that will divide, right? So this will be 101. Again, if I didn't put it under this place and I put it here, 101, you can see that the one on top, which is 100, is greater than the one below, right? So it will be a case of 2 minus 5, right? And that will be improper. And again, when we divided, we did not divide 100 by 101. We divided 1000 by 101, and we saw that the highest value that it can be is 101. So that was why when I'm bringing it back, right, I have to put it under this 1000. So this is 101, right? So if we are getting a bit confused, it's fine. Division is actually not straightforward, so you can watch this video multiple times till you get it. Now in this case here, you do your subtraction, normal subtraction, right? 0 minus 1 cannot go, so I have to borrow. I can't borrow from this, so I have to borrow from this guy, 0. Remember again, when you borrow, what will you carry over? Will you carry over 1? No, you carry over the base that you are operating in, which will be 2. I'll cut it again, 2. I'll cut it again, and this is 2, right? So if I subtract 2 minus 1 is 1, remember I'm not touching these parts here. 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 minus 0 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0, right? So I don't need to stop myself about that. And this guy is also 0, that's not to 0. Remember, after we subtract, we now bring down the first value in this case. So I'm bringing down 1. 111 divided by 101 is still going to be 1, right? It's still going to be 1. 1 times 101 is what? 101. Let's subtract. 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1, right? 1 minus 1 is also 0, right? Remember, when we subtract, we now bring in the other parts. So I'll bring in this one here. I'll bring it down. So in this case now, I have 101 divided by 101. 101 divided by 101 is actually 1. Of course, you can see that. So 1 times 101, right, would be 101. So let's subtract. What do I have here? I have 0. Is there any other thing I can bring down? No, because that's what I can bring down. So the value, the answer is actually 111 in base 2. Now let me recap, because I felt like it was a bit somehow, right? Since the highest value that I can have in base 2, right, is 1, meaning that whatever I am dividing, the highest that the result can ever be would always be 1. I cannot have 2 here. I cannot have 2 here because my answer is in base what? Is in base 2. If I was operating in base 5, let's say so it's base 5, right? I cannot have 6 here because I'm operating in what? In base 5. The highest I can have, right, is 1 less than the base I'm operating in. So 1 less than 2 is 1. 1 less than 5 is 4. If you're operating in base 10, 1 less than 10 is 9. Right? So that means that's why you see that each of these single digits, right, the highest you can ever see would always be 9. Right? The highest you can ever see will always be 9 when you're dealing in base 10. So every other thing that we did here is just following the same principle that we've been talking about since. So the answer of this is 111 in base 2. Great. So we did very well, right? Let's solve another question. And if you're lucky, I mean, one thing to actually be happy about is that in WAEC, when I reviewed it, they hardly set division questions, but you never can tell, right? Your set might just be the first in a long while. So let's see this question. It says what? 1100 in base 2 divided by 110, right? In base 2. So we just need to find the number that is actually either equal to this or greater than this, right? We always know that it's always going to be 1, 1, or 0, right? So we don't need to bother ourselves. It can never be 2, it can never be 3. So the first one that can go through this is 111. So 111 divided by 110 will be 1. 1 times 110 will be what? 110, right? So I'll subtract. 1 minus 1 is 1, and these guys are going to be 0 and 0, right? So I'll bring down this 1, right? And this is 11, right? 11 divided by this 110 is always going to give me 0. Yes or no? Right? I mean, it's just like 11. Let's even talk about it in base 10. So 11 divided by 100, right? That would be 0 point something, Abby? 0 point something. So the same thing to here. 11 divided by 110 will be 0, right? So 0 times this guy is going to be 0 times anything really is going to be 0, right? So let's subtract. Or you can say 0, 0, 0. See the same thing. 1 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 1, right? Next, we'll bring in the next value, which is what? 0. So 110 divided by 110, of course, that's going to give me 1, right? 1 times 110 is going to give me 110, right? So let's subtract. 0, 0, 0, right? Next up, we bring down, because there is still a value after this, we have to bring down that value, right? Even if it's 0, you still bring it down, right? This 0 that is here, as far as there's still a value here, you divide it by this 110. So 0 divided by 110 is still going to be 0, right? Then 0 times this value is going to give me what? It's going to give me 0, right? So 0 minus 0 is 0. So that means that when I divide 111100 divided by 110, right, the answer is going to be 1 0 1 0 in base 2. Once again, if this is not clear, pause the video, rewind as many times as you need to till you get it. Right? So let's see our answer. 1 0 1 0 in base 2. So we can, and if you want to check it, right, so you can do 1 0 1 0 multiplied by 1 1 0. You have this value inside here. Right? You have this value inside. You can check it out, and that's how to know if your answer is actually correct. Great. So now let's look at another number, right? This is in base 5. You can see this is in base 5. The highest digit in this base 5 is what? 1 less than it, which is what? 4. Right? So 2 will go. Anything, any value, you cannot find 5 here, you cannot find 6 here, because if you are working in base 5, the highest digits in the distance would be less than that 5, which is what? 4. Less than that 5, which would be 4 downwards, right? Or the highest digits will be 1 less than the 5, which is 4, really. So 341 divided by 22. Let's look at this. In base 5, right, and 22 in base 5, right? Same thing too. Even though it's the same, just look for a number that is greater than or equal to this value. So 34, right, is greater than or equal to value. So 34 in 22 will be 1. 1 times 22 would be 22, regardless of the base. So let's subtract. 3 minus 2, or 4 minus 2 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1, right? And then we bring in this 1 down. Abi, is that not it? We bring this 1 down. Remember, we're dealing with base 5. So I cannot say 121 divided by 20 and use my calculator to do that, right? I have to use a manual way of solving. So that will be 22 times 1 in base 5. That will be 22 in base 5. 22 times 2 in base 5, right? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 is less than 5, so we are good. 2 times 2 is also 4. 4 is less than 5, so we are good. So 44, right? 22 times 3. What is 22 times 3? So 22 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 is already greater than 5. So we have to divide. So that will be 6 divided by 5, which will be 1 remainder 1. So I'll drop 1 and carry over 1 here. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7 divided by 5, right? That is what? 1 remainder 2. So I'll drop the remainder and carry over the 1. Because there's nothing else to multiply, I'll bring down the 1. So you can see that 22 times 3 is what? 121 in base 5. Right? So you can see this is actually a very different ball game. So we can see we already have our value. So I know that 22 in base 5 times 3 in base 5, right, is going to give me 121. So by the time I divide, that means the answer I'll get will be what? Will be 3. 3 times 22 in base 5, I know that the answer is going to be what? 121 in base 5, right? So 121 minus 121 is going to give me 0. So therefore, the result of this division is going to be 13 in base what? In base 5. Let's see if our answer is correct. Great. 13 in base 5. Let's solve this last question. 356 base 8 divided by 7 in base 8. Right? So we have 356 in base 8 divided by 7 in base 8. Right? So we are working in base. Let's see the multiples of 7 in base 8. That will give us something close to 35. Right? So that will be 7 times 1. 7 times 1 will always be 7 in base 8, right? 7 times 2, right? 7 times 2 in base 10 is 14, right? So if I want to put it in base 8, so that will be 14 divided by 8, right? This is 1 remainder 6. As always, I'll drop the 6 and carry over the 1, right? Let me do it the other way. So 7 times 3 is 21, right? So 21 divided by 8. 21 divided by 8 is going to be 3. No, it's going to be 2 remainder what? Because 8 times 2 is 16, that will be remainder 5. So I'll drop 5 and carry over the 2. So once I multiply, I'll just bring down the 2. And 7 times 4, right, in base 8 is going to be, if I do it in base 10, that is 28, right? So 28, but since I'm working in base 8, I'll divide it by 8. 28 divided by 8, that is 3, right? Because that is 24. 8 times 3 is 24, so there will be a remainder of 4. So I'll drop the remainder and carry over the result, which is 3. Great. So let's see. So 35 divided by, I mean, this is how close we can get to 35. Anything more than this is going to be greater than 35. So 35 divided by 7, right, in base 8, the answer is going to be 4. So this is 4. 4 times 7 is 34 already in base 8. We found that already, 34. So let's subtract. 5 minus 5 is 1. By the time I bring this down, this is 16, right? 16 divided by 7 is 2. Right? So 2 times 7 in base 8 is 16. So by the time I subtract, this gives me 0, right? So that means our answer, therefore, is 42 in base 8. Let's just confirm. Let's use this video to confirm. If I multiply 42 by 7 in base 8, so 42 by 7 in base 8, I should be able to find the answer. 2 times 7 is 14. So 14 divided by 8, right? That was 1 remainder, what's remainder 6. So I'll drop the 6 and carry over the 1. 4 times 7 is 28 plus 1, that is 29. 29 divided by 8, right? This is, if you look at it, if you do it in base 10, the nearest you can find is 3 with a remainder of 4, right? No, 8 times 3 is 24, so that will be a remainder of 5, right? So 8 times 3 is 24, there will be a remainder of 5, so I'll drop the 5 and carry over the 3, right? So since I don't know something, I'll bring down the 3 here, right? So when I multiplied our results by our divisor, I had 356. Is that what we add? Yeah. So we add 356, and that shows that our solution was actually correct, because by the time we multiplied 42 by 7, right, which is the results we got by the divisor that we used, we add the same thing, right? So that's it about division in number base. So if you found this video useful, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, right, so that you can be up to date with all of our amazing content that we churn out regularly. And don't forget to comment if you have a question or you want to just say something. See you guys in the next video, where we'll be talking about past questions concerning number base from 2004 till 2023.